guys, so we're gonna go ahead and make sure everything's sanitized with the alcohol. Even though you got the gloves on, I would still go ahead and sanitize everything down with the alcohol, just so that proper sterilization will prevent contamination. Alrighty. So this is my still air box. Now the purpose of the still air box is just to minimize the airflow. When I go in here, it's a little bit cool or whatnot. So I have my liquid culture. This is just the last of the golden teacher. I'm going to go ahead and inoculate the jar, one of the jars or whatnot, for the golden teacher. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and inoculate one of the jars or whatnot. All of the golden teachers that I've used. I've used the Uncle Ben's method with the brown rice bag, and those things are coming along really good. Actually, these aren't the golden teachers. These are the albino aviaries or whatnot. Psilocybin one. This is just for research purposes only. Nobody's eating these mushrooms or nothing like that. The psilocybin ones. I have some blue oysters in here today also. I sanitized my lighter, so I'm going to go ahead and, it's kind of like a blowtorch or whatnot. Every time you inoculate or whatnot, let's go ahead and stick the syringe needle inside of the bag. You want to go ahead and sterilize it with fire or whatnot, just so that you can always be careful and be sure. You can go ahead and use the same needles. That's what I'm going to do for this one. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw this guy out. And I've been keeping inside of cold storage or whatnot, pretty much just inside the refrigerator or whatnot. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off. I do not have any resealable material on top of the jars. I'm going to go ahead and do the method where we go ahead and keep the jars flipped upside down. So these tops or whatnot are flipped upside down, just so that it can still get some breathing and whatnot. So that kind of makes a GE, a gas exchange, just so that they can breathe. Alrighty. Now you might still see some moisture inside of there. That's okay. That's just the moisture from the actual corn. I used coffee, just to give it some nutrients, some more nutrients or whatnot when I went ahead and boiled it. I did not use a pressure cooker for this guy, for these ones. Alright, now I'm not going to go ahead and, I'm not going to go ahead and poke the bag or whatnot, so I'm not going to keep needing to, light this or whatnot. But the thing is, it's my first time using it, a couple days, so I'm going to go ahead and do it this time. And I'll show you what I mean by I'm not going to go ahead and stick the needle in the bag. Get it nice and orange. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the top off, untwist it, and I'm not even going to lift it all the way up. I'm going to lift it just a little bit. And I'll show you what I mean by that now. So, just a little bit. And I'm going to let it kind of dip down the walls there. Go down. So if you can see it going down the walls there, I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Alrighty. Now that was just a little bit. I'm not sure if that's gonna work, but let's try to get all of that in there. Okay. Now, if you look at my movements, I'm moving very still because I don't want to get the air all ruffled up in here. Then when I put it on, I'm gonna go ahead and close it up, and there we go. I'm gonna just give it a little shake. My mycelium is all right in there. Just gonna give it a little shake or whatnot. Kind of spread the mycelium around. It's not a spore syringe, just a mycelium syringe, so let's see what that does. So I'm going to put this one over here just so that I can conclude it away that that's the penis MV one. So now I'm done with this needle. I'm going to save this needle just in case I need to use it again, but most likely I will not be using this needle again, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Just put it to the side here. Alrighty. So the next, and then after every one, I'm going to make sure I'm staying sterile. Even though it's inside the still box, I still want to just keep everything sterile. That's all. Alright, so the next one is going to be the blue oyster. I'm going to do about a cc per jar. And then the rest I'm going to do inside the bags here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get my needle ready. Now because the syringe, the needle is already inside of the package, you don't need to flame sterilize it or whatnot when you first take it out of the package. So just keep that in mind also. Alrighty. Now this is the blue oyster. These are more used for medicinal purposes. Also, it's a good oyster to eat or whatnot. Twist on my needle, and I'm just going to go ahead and get the lids ready and prepared or whatnot so that I can lift and then close them up, lift and then close them up. Actually, I'm going to do one per one just so that I don't have a lot of contamination. That's why you want to always do things in a still air box, and you don't want to move too much wind movement. And when I do it, I like to do it right down the walls there. Just like when you put it in, just let it drip down the walls. I don't like to directly, just so that my saline can just do its own thing. Go ahead and stick this needle inside the bag, then I will be flaming it or whatnot. Okay. Shake that one up. Psyllium from that guy. And this should start colonizing in about a week. We should start to see results. This guy up. Bring this over here to the side here, right down here, right here, in front of my face. All right, so I'm not sure if you guys can see, but right here, right there, you can kind of see like the air getting in. So you want to kind of be quick with it. All right. I want to just take this off real quick. Now this is really tight. I'm not sure if you guys can see. This is like air sealed tight on there. Letting the mycelium drip down the sides of the walls. Here, bring it down here in front of my face. So you guys can see, I'm just letting my mycelium drip down the walls here and kind of do its own little thing. I'm doing about a cc and a half per one. Okay, and as you guys can see, kind of how the jar is, I have it sealed the way that it's sealed or whatnot. It's not a complete seal, so that the jars can still breathe. Okay. Then I just give it a little shake that mycelium up all around there. You know, you want to make sure you give it a nice little shake, not too hard or whatnot. Okay. Let's see if we can get this guy. Oh, this one came up pretty easy actually. Alrighty. I'm just letting it drip down the sides there. Alright. Just so it can go down and do its own little thing there. You know. I want to try to minimize as much as I keep any type of air from getting in there, because you don't want no contamination, and that's why I'm doing it in a still air box, but a reliable source. I mean, you don't have to use a still air box. You can use a hood flow. You could go in like a closet. You just want to minimize the air that's floating around, because you'll be surprised at how much stuff is actually in the air. Okay, I want to just give it a little shake. You know, not too much there. And I believe I have one more that was really hard to get open, this guy. Yep. Just check this guy. Okay. And then the rest I'm going to do the bag method, and you guys will be able to see the bag method also. Let it go right down the sides there. Okay. Good. All right, let me close this guy up. In about a week or two, definitely 2 weeks, we'll come back in and check on these guys. I'm gonna go ahead and put these guys in the grow tent. Once you go ahead and do that, you can take it out of the still air box and then just try to bring it right to the grow tent. Normally what I would do is wrap these guys up in some type of aluminum foil, just the top, so that no dust or air can get inside of it, you know, contaminate it or whatnot. But because I'm already in the still control room or whatnot, pretty much, it's not too much air that's going on anyway. I have the air purifier right over there. See, so it's always going on. Every 12 hours it goes on, every 6 hours it goes off. So just to kind of like minimize contamination as much as possible. Once these things start to fruit, the mushrooms start to actually fruit, then you don't really have to worry about contamination as much. Yeah. All right, so now that these guys are all ahead, these 5 2, 3, 4, 5 are actually oysters, and then this one is the albino aviary. Okay, and now this is where I would do the sterilization part with the actual needle with the fire. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and get my mycopore tape ready. Now the mycopore tape allows for a proper GE. I was using the sports athletic tape. I noticed that as long as it's covered, it doesn't really matter. But I still like to be safe than sorry. So again, this is the mycopores tape. I'm just getting everything ready or whatnot. I didn't want to get this ready outside of the bag here, just because I didn't want too much air sticking onto mycopores tape and it just fucking up. So I'm going to go ahead and push all the rice down at the bottom, just so that when I do put the mycelium in there, it can colonize a little faster, if that makes sense, because the rice is all smushed together properly. And I'll show you guys how I go ahead and do that there. Okay. So you can see I smushed most of the rice down the bottom bag, just because once it starts to get inoculated, I want to keep the rice from the top here because this is where I'm going to do my gas exchange hole at. Okay. And I just put 2 pieces of tape on each one when I'm prepping it. Just one for the actual needle hole, and the next one for the gas exchange hole. That makes sense. Okay. Grab the next one. And the water that, the liquid that you guys see dripping off of it, that's just alcohol. Before I put it in there. You always want to do 70% ISO alcohol, just because you don't want, if you use 90%, the alcohol will actually burn off faster before it starts to clean anything. Alright, so you kind of want to just get it smushed all the way down to the bottom there. I mean, you don't have to. I've seen 90 minute, Uncle Ben. I've seen him actually, just use the rice regularly to smush it down. Like, he didn't smush it down at all. I've seen him smush it down. I've seen him not. I've seen people not smush it. Once it starts to, inoculate or whatnot, cultivate, and starts to, form cultures or whatnot. You don't want to be, twisting it and shit, putting it like this way. Once you make the gas exchange hole, because you don't want none of that rice to contaminate the gas exchange, because what happens is these guys, they're breathing living things, right? So they breathe in oxygen and they let out CO2, right? Just like us, same kind of thing. So you don't want anything to be blocking that fresh air, if that makes sense. That's why I don't like to leave them in here, because I want them to be able to get a good airflow. I kind of put them in the grow tent and whatnot, which is right behind me. And you guys will see that. Yeah. Not a big grow tent, but it works for now. Alrighty. So I just want to kind of get the rice down to the bottom as much as possible. I like to do this in here so that not too much is getting on the bag. That makes sense. Contamination is a big thing with me. I like to, it's no point of doing all of this work and then to get your shit contaminated, because now it's like all of this work was done for no reason. But trial and tribulation is what makes you better at it. So just try things out. Don't be afraid. See what happens when you do get contamination. See what happens. See if you can identify contamination, things like that. I'm going to put a new piece of tape on this guy right there, just because that's going directly on to my my holes, and I don't want to get nothing really inside these Uncle Ben's bags. Now the good thing with the Uncle Ben's bag is it already comes sterile, so you don't have to sterilize it or whatnot, because it's made for human consumption. So it's already ready to pretty much, you don't have to sterilize it. You have to clean it off, obviously, alcohol and shit like that, but you don't have to sterilize the actual grains inside of the bag there. And it's really hard to not get contamination. I mean, everything in the air and all of that. The whole thing is you just want mycelium to win, so I think you cultivate. Make sure no bacteria and shit is in there, things like that. I mean, you're gonna have that, but try your best to prevent it. 5 P's. Proper planning prevents poor performance. Alright, guys. So now this is the inoculation part. I'm going to do 2 parts of the Uncle Ben's method. I'm going to heat my syringe up, just the needle part, just so that I can go ahead. So one, I'm going to stick it right in the bottom here. Kind of like just coming right straight down. And I'll show you guys what I mean. Try not to puncture this. Okay? And this is the blue oysters going inside. Now some people like to take this out of the steel air box. That's if you have like your own little steel air box. This steel air box is good with heat, so I'll be good. Alright. Now this part I'm going to I'm going to go ahead and put the needle right down. I'm going to put the needle right in there, kind of bringing it like that, but trying not to puncture the actual, bottom part right in here. Alright, now I'm going to try to do this as good as you guys can see, but hopefully you get the idea. Once you're actually doing it yourselves, you'll kind of see if you're going to be doing it yourselves and you're not just here watching for the entertainment purpose. Okay, and I'm just going to do about just a cc and a half. Now, when you do get it in there, it might be a little hard to get the cc's down. Be a little careful with it. It's just the pressure from inside of there pushing back on the actual needle itself. Sometimes you might be able to get a little rice spawn in there, and you just got to push a little hard, that's all. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put this guy down. Over that hole that I just created. Make sure you put this over the actual hole and not above the hole or anything like that. This is your micropore tape. I've heard of people using poly tape. I've never used poly tape, but I've heard of people using poly tape. Now what you want to do is, me personally, I like to go ahead and do all of them first before I go ahead and make the gas exchange hole. Okay, so I'm going to do the needle again. You want to do a little ways down, because when you're sticking the needle in there, you're not just sticking the first part of the needle in there. So as long as it gets nice and orange, it'll be sterile. Now this one I'm going to do through the side. I'm going to go ahead and stick the needle kind of like in the middle here. I'm going to shoot for and put the mycelium in it that way. Now I've only ever used two methods. If you have another method, comment down in the comments below and let me know your method. Do another CC and a half. Again, this is the blue oysters by the Mushroom Lab. So I'm trying out different ones. I do make my own syringes. Yeah. But I like to try out different genetics or whatnot, just to see what's the best ones, because I'm trying to get the biggest mushrooms around, I guess, if that makes sense. Okay, last bag here. And notice that with those two, I didn't put no alcohol on it as I'm going in, just because I already sterilized these guys already. So yeah, but I'm always going to sterilize the needle every time I penetrate the bag there, even when I do the gas exchange. And it's very common actually to get like a piece of rice stuck in that little hole there in the needle. You know, just make sure you heat it up or whatnot. Don't really worry about that. You see it red, you're good. I didn't have any rice on my needle, but I'm just saying that I have done that before and it was still okay. Okay, so this method also, I'm just going to stick it right in. I kind of like to stick it right in the middle there, just because when you do it going down at the bottom there, all of my mycelium tends to just pile up right there. And you know, you don't want to be shaking the bag with the gas exchange hole already in there or whatnot. You can always do the break and shake method, where you break it up, kind of to speed up the process, but I like to just let it go. I don't like to interrupt anything when people are building, when the mushroom mycelium is building its culture. If that makes sense. It's like, imagine you guys are building a culture, trying to cultivate things, and then something comes and just shakes your whole fucking world up. Yeah. That's kind of how I look at it. I'm not saying that's it, but you know, I kind of look at this as family, if that makes sense. So, just doing the last one. Stick it right in. I'm just going to put the rest put that over. Awesome sauce. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my needle off of here. Put this guy back on. This is all done. The syringe. I still like to keep my syringes just so I know which one that I use. This one I got from the mushroom lab. This was blue oysters. This guy I got from Coast to Coast. It's albino Avery. This is a Coast to Coast one. So now I'm going to make the gas exchange hole. So kind of with the gas exchange hole, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't get the bottom. I'm going to take this needle, stick it right up the top there. The further to the top, the better, because you want that gas exchange to be farther from your column, just so that it can breathe. The gas exchange is going to allow the mycelium culture to breathe and allow the CO2 to be released out of the Uncle Ben's bag without contaminating it. That makes sense. So when I do that, I'm kind of going to open it up like a bag of chips almost. Grab this part here just so that I don't penetrate the back there. I don't want to really pull it open because I don't want too much air to get inside of there. You know, when you pull it open and whatnot, you're almost creating a suction air pocket, right? So when you do make that hole, a lot of air rushes in. So what I seem to do is I just want to kind of almost like I'm separating a bag there, and once I see a hole that's not connected to the back, meaning like a little pocket there, I'm gonna calmly stick it in and then stick it in through the other side while making sure the back side didn't get penetrated, because it's easy to penetrate through and think you didn't get the back here, and in reality you really did get the back here. So, and then once I get it right to the front, I'm just going to make a little hole there, you guys can see, and I'm going to open the hole up a little bit, just enough so it's not a small asshole where it can really breathe. Now when I do it this way, which I got from the rookie mycologist, he does it this way, it kind of gives a bigger hole, if that makes sense. See there, it kind of gives a bigger hole. Now I just want to close it up as fast as I can. Making a big hole and then closing it up with the microforce tape. I'm not putting any extra air in there, I'm just closing the holes up that I created. That's it. You got to realize that these are living organisms and whatnot, so it's going to find a way to get to those holes to be able to breathe. And that's just so when enough CO2 gets built up in here, it'll go ahead and release itself from the pressure. So you want to put that to the side there. I normally put them to the side on the side just so that no rice can build up in there. But when I put it right straight through the middle, I like to stand them up. But when I put it down at the bottom, I like to flip them to the side there when I'm done, just so that the mycelium can spread all throughout. I think that's more of a preference. Okay, next bag. I'm gonna do the same exact thing. But I'm gonna go ahead and make sure make sure you sterilize the needle every time when you're penetrating the bag. Once it gets nice and red, then your needle is sterile. Again, some people don't like to do this part inside of their still airflow. Still box. Most people have airflow hoods, and the good benefit with the airflow hood is it pushes out good air so that nothing can really get onto your ship. But I still like a hood flow just to control the air. Now, if you do penetrate it in the back there, don't panic. Never really panic. It's all about patience and trying things out when it comes to this. But you can just put some micropore tape right on the back there. Remember, you want to get it as close to the top as possible. Alright. Open it up a little bit. Be careful that you don't create more holes, because the more holes you create, make sure they're covered up with the micropores tape. You'll be surprised. You won't even know you made a hole, and your thing's contaminated because this whole time you got an extra hole that you didn't know about. So try to be careful. You don't have to be quick about it. There's no need to rush. Okay. Now this is the one where I put it straight to the bottom there. And as I can see, if I move it around like this, I can kind of see the mycelium just, running around there, whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one to the side. I believe that's the one. Has to be the one. Yep, that's the one. Yeah. Alright, so it's the last one. I'm going to go ahead and sterilize this guy. Notice you can keep these needles if you like, as long as you just keep sterilizing them, whatnot, they'll work perfectly fine. But what I did notice is each time you're using a needle with a syringe, unless you're using the same syringe, you use a different needle for a different syringe. Just keep in mind that you're going to be using different myceliums or whatnot. Like it could be the same strand, but each mycelium has its own DNA and whatnot inside of it. So I'm not sure how that'll work with cross-contaminating needles because, even though you're sterilizing the needle, it can still be some mycelium, stuck inside of there, which, can cause contamination, all types of things. So I like to just use a new needle every time I'm inoculating anything, or if I'm going from a different syringe to a different syringe. Keep that in mind there. And if you have any comments about that or whatnot that you'd like to elaborate on, just leave it in the comments or whatnot. I'm always up for discussion here. Now with this one, that was a little tricky there, so I'm gonna check the back to make sure I didn't puncture the back. You'll be surprised, like you can snip it just a little bit, there'll be a little hole there and you'll never know. And now when it's breathing out of that hole now, because that hole is probably easier to get air through, and now you're allowing contamination. You don't need to make a big hole, but make sure the hole is bigger than the initial needle that you originally did. That's why I like to kind of do two down there, because you want to be able to allow the air to come up and breathe. Alrighty. Okay, guys. Perfect. And that's that. That's what I did. So I inoculated 1, 2, 3, 3 bags, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jars of the blue oyster, and then this one was the little bit that I had left of the albino aviary. I'm going to make sure I label that guy. Now, when you're moving them from still air box to the actual bin, you don't want to get too much air with the jars, because you got to remember the way that I did the jars and whatnot, I didn't use any micropore tape. Now I'm going to show you guys in later videos or whatnot. You can actually poke a hole inside of these guys. You can use some resealer. It's like this wax stuff that you take from a tube, you put it on top of there. You put a hole in there and then you put this wax stuff on there. Now it'll reseal the actual bottle, it'll reseal the actual jar, and then you can put another hole there, and that'll be, then you put the micropore tape over the hole, right? And then that'll be your gas exchange hole or whatnot. Then you can close these lids regularly where it's an airtight seal. I found that way works very well. It's like probably a great way, best way when using these. But if you want to save some time, or you just want to do a little experiment, you go ahead and take the lids, flip them over, or whatnot. When you're sterilizing it and everything like that. I didn't use a pressure cooker. That's why I did it this way. When you're using a pressure cooker, you can do it the opposite way, or you can do it this way also. But when you're using a pressure cooker, just keep in mind that you don't want these lids closed all the way, or even when you're regular sterilizing. I'll make a video for that one also. But for this method, I went ahead and just took the lids, turned them around, whatnot, sealed them back tight right now. They're really sealed tight, and yeah. So I'll make another video to show you guys what I meant by that. And just a quick summary of what we did today. So today, pretty much what we did today is we inoculated 6 jars, 5 of them being blue oysters, and 3 bags, all of the Uncle Ben's bag, 90-minute whole grain. I've only used the whole grain. I'm going to be trying out different types of bags of grain and whatnot. I'm going to be trying out different things and whatnot. So, just stay tuned and whatnot, and have a lot of things in store.
Yeah, you guys with the hood mycologist and rocking out. Let's do it.